One. Hey everyone, Tina McGlynn with another episode of Life in Stories. And today I have a special guest. It's Amer Riley from Louisville, Kentucky, who is a transformational life coach. But Amer, expand on that. What do we mean by that?
So, transformational, I always begin, or my background comes from nutrition and fitness because I believe, the saying is a man with no health has but one wish, a man with health has 1,000 wishes. So, I believe everything is rooted in our health and fitness. I think we need to do whatever we can to stay healthy because unfortunately, we'll get to this later. We don't really have a healthcare system, we kind of have a sick care system. That can be a whole other subject, though. So it always starts with the health and the fitness, but my true passion is literally transforming their world and showing them the ginormous science behind building the life of your dreams, something that you're passionate about, that you absolutely love.
I like that. I like that. So, you and I kind of met on Clubhouse,
Yes, which is an amazing app. Love it.
I know, so do I. So I was on there, talking. I run the Kate Foundation, and we have this Smart Sense Wellness program because as people are moving through recovery, so many times, like literally 99% of the time, they are turning to like a sugar addiction, carbon. They're turning to food to for comfort. So now we've got another issue. Have you seen that? What's your experience with that?
So, just for all your listeners, I also have battled my own drug and problems. And I was never an alcohol person, but I had my own drug issues. I wasn't necessarily somebody that reached for food as a recovery method, but I find that so often. Believe it or not, even with people that have no substance abuse problems,
Right.
food is like their drug they've had their whole life. How many times as a kid did you hear your parents say, "Hey, eat this, it'll make you feel better"?
Or don't leave the table until you're done with your dinner plate.
Because there's people starving.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yes. So I believe that food, first of all, as we discussed a little bit, food is very socialized in every culture. It's not just America, it's every culture across the globe. Everything that we do, whether it's family gatherings, holidays, any kind of tradition, everything is centered around food. I mean, I don't think I have been to a gathering that there wasn't a food and beverage. Either you brought something or it was already provided. It just kind of goes hand in hand. Um, and so I think that when people get off of drugs, they're searching for that coping mechanism
Okay.
because they maybe haven't learned just yet, proper coping mechanisms. And so it's a twofold thing. It is something you can do with your hands. So if you have a custom of putting something to your mouth or something like that, it fills that void. But food is an emotional thing. We attach emotions to things. So, for example, eat this ice cream, it'll make you feel better. A lot of kids have grow up with, oh, ice cream's great, it makes me happy. Well,
Yeah.
it's not the ice cream that makes you happy. It's the feeling that you got when you were surrounded by those people while you were eating the ice cream. So
Yeah.
believe it or not, whether you're in recovery or not in recovery, food is the number one drug in the globe. It's the number one. It's the easily accessible. um, you don't have, unfortunately, excuse me, you don't have campaigns out there. I mean, it's hard to not throw a rock and come across some health and fitness stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like telling you how to be healthy and fit. But it's on every corner. The unhealthy option, they're on every corner. So it makes something like addiction like that very difficult. It's not just about staying away from the liquor stores. I mean, that's like staying away from the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, when you mention emotional eating, I have that in my family, and I get subject to that same phase in my life where I'm stress eating and having to relearn. And here I am knowing that, the steps I need to take. I'm not doing that, but it's so hard to overcome, especially, sugars and everything now. We have so many bad carbs that taste good. So it's easy. It's the same reward system in our brain. And so it's so hard to eat healthy food unless you make it tasty and colorful and fun to eat, right? Because all the bad food is tasty and colorful and fun to eat.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I really feel that, first of all, our food evolution, just to give a little backdrop, is all marketing. It is all completely marketing. So in 1967, Harvard University was paid by the sugar industry to release a report stating that the cause of heart disease was fat.
Yes.
So if you'll remember, our world, and we still see it today, our world went through a no fat or a low fat craze. Everybody was doing everything in their power so that they could write that on the label of on the outside of their food. But what we have to learn to realize is we got to really look at the ingredients. So, like the FDA, for example, says that it can say zero trans fat as long as it's 0.5 or below in trans fat. Well, that doesn't sound like a lot, but 0.5 of trans fat is like 25 grams of saturated fat. So there's one ingredient that if you see partially hydrogenated oils in the food, it's got trans fat guaranteed.
Yeah, I knew that, but I didn't know.
So yeah, our marketing has what changed. And unfortunately, our agriculture is primarily controlled by lobbyists. They get paid by these big companies to mass produce food that unfortunately it may originally be healthy, but by the time they get done with it through the processation of it, it has lost all its nutrients. So
Just
what I tell people is just eat real food. It's called JERF. Just eat real food.
yeah.
So when you read the label, if you can't pronounce something, that's the first clue. If you can't pronounce it, chances are it was made in the last 50 to 100 years, and you don't need to eat it. Also, you touched on sugar. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Sugar has about 50 different names. So just because it doesn't say sugar doesn't mean it's not in there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to really be careful. And sugar is what we need to be the most concerned about. Food in itself is not a bad thing. It's sugar that produces all the ill side effects.
Yeah, it does. In fact, it was interesting. I one of our businesses is a CBD, and we manage people's arthritis. And when you take the CBD, it dissipates the inflammation. But another thing I tell clients is you've got to reduce your sugar, because if you notice, you go sugar free and you normally wake up with sore hands. You go sugar free, you're not going to wake up like that, because sugar just exasperates the inflammation already present in your body. And people are like, really? I'm like, yes. I mean, it's not.
Now, I will caution, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. That's very rude of me. But I will caution people that I make my point very clear with my clients. When you come off of sugar, the withdrawal symptoms from coming off of sugar are very similar to the withdrawal symptoms of coming off of cocaine.
Yep.
It literally affects the same dopamine, the neurotransmitters in our brain. It affects it. So you are going to experience feeling like shit. I mean, I'm sorry if that's not allowed on your podcast. I should have asked you that.
Don't believe me. I yet.
We're going to experience that for probably 5 to 7 days. And what I tell people is that's okay. It's normal. It does suck. Try to sleep as much as you can, is all I can say. But if you feed the habit, let's say you get to day 3 and you feed that habit, you start all over again from day number 1. So it's so not worth it. But you are right. The cognitive clarity that you have once you get that stuff out of your system, it's unexplainable.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just like, I'm a supporter of intermittent fasting. In fact, I was just telling somebody in the Smart Sense program who struggles wanting to just eat at night. I said, then fast all day. Then don't eat until your time, because we're so ingrained that we have to eat 3 meals a day. And that's just not true. That's just propaganda by, the marketing machines of our food corporations. You don't have I'm telling you, my brother Mike doesn't even know this, but he gave me the best advice years ago when he said, sis, if you're not hungry, do not eat. And I keep that and I remind people because we're so ingrained that we have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's just not true. And that whole 4 hours, you have to eat every 4 hours. That is just a paintbrush, but that's not true for everybody. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do, and you might disagree with me a little bit, but so let me tell you where my knowledge comes from. When I entered my health and fitness journey, I'm one of those all or nothing type people. There's no gray area for me. I'm white and black. So when I got into health and fitness, I became a trainer and then a nutritionist. And I was working out one day with one of my fellow trainers, and he said, Amber, you should compete in a bodybuilding competition. And I was like, well, why the hell would I do that? That sounds absurd. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got the best physique at the time. I had the best physique I'd ever had in my life. I was perfectly content, but I'm also one of those people that it was kind of like, if you dare me, like, oh shit, now I got to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then I had the thought, I'm like, you know what? As a little girl, I remember being 14 years old, and so a freshman in high school, and I was on the cheerleading team, and not a lot of 14-year-olds or not a lot of freshmen got to make the varsity cheerleading team. And I was one of the flyers that went up in the air. And one day at practice, we had been doing this one particular stunt for about 20 minutes. Everybody was tired, of course, and the stunt come crumbling down. And
Ooh.
the next thing I heard was, Amber, you are dead weight. Now, don't get me wrong, she was yelling a lot of other things as well to many other cheerleaders. But what I heard was, Amber, you are dead weight. And in the gymnasium, it echoed.
Oh
So
yeah.
I heard it like 3 times. So that started my very first unhealthy diet. I basically started starving myself. I ate, those packets of peanut butter crackers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I ate those for lunch with one of the milk cartons that you get
Yep.
at school for milk. So that started my obsession of wanting to have this perfect physique, which I realize now is just unobtainable. But, as a child, I didn't. So when he made that comment to me, I thought, well, why the hell not do it? Like, that's what your goal's been all the time. Like, what I tell my clients is, I help you fall in love with the image staring back at you in the mirror. That image doesn't have to be the same image as I see. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're in love with it, that's what is important.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So I I went full force and I did it. Now, so to get back to your question, my theory on the timing of meals is because of maintaining your internal blood glucose levels,
Yeah, sure. Yep.
and also because of minimizing muscle loss.
Okay.
Muscle
I agree.
muscle is the most important. It is the number one factor of how healthy you are. And
Yeah.
as we reach the age of 40, our body just naturally stops, not stops, but it steadily decreases the amount of testosterone that is released. And whether you're male or female, you have testosterone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's imperative that when you are on any kind of weight loss, that you are maintaining the muscle mass you already have, if not trying to gain more.
Got yeah, which simple weights, simple right bands, anything like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's my only cautioning is I like to keep people's, you don't want to look like you just flatline, but you don't want like the if you looked at a heart monitor, the beat of a regular, normal, healthy person, you
Yeah.
also don't want your internal blood glucose levels to look like that. And unfortunately, at least here in America, that's what they look like for the typical person. So yes, I do tend to personally eat every 2 to 4 hours. I do tend to do that.
You are working out though, so we have to
I
just so
do.
yeah. And the funny thing about you said bodybuilding, the brother Mike I just mentioned, he's had New York State Naturals for 20 years. You'll have to look it up. So he
Okay.
has run a natural physique, and they do the bikini, they do the woman's physique, they all natural. He's with OCB and a couple other, but that's what he's done all his life, and
Awesome.
so that so obviously his his nutrition health advice I listen to. And so it's funny when you said that, because I am quite aware that if you are actually exercising and working out, yes, you do need to eat. But most of our clients are not, you know,
Right. No, I agree.
they're not,
But protein is imperative. Let me just touch on that. Um, a lot of people recognize the harm of carbs, okay? What they don't recognize is the sheer importance of protein. Fat's important too, don't get me wrong, it's fat, but protein, so there's two things that build muscle: testosterone and protein.
yeah, yeah, yep,
So you can't, it doesn't, you can be working out till you are blue in the face. If you're not putting enough protein in your body, you will not see results. You just won't. You'll see some minor changes, but you're not going to see that beautiful shape that muscles form if you're not consuming enough protein. So that's the other reason why I'm more of a 2 to 4 hour person, because I am very cognizant of how much protein I consume a day. I don't keep track of how much carbs. I don't keep track of my fat. I absolutely do not count calories, and I don't ever want to even hear calories come out of my client's mouth.
that's a good point, because in Smart Sense, I'll tell you, we don't count calories either, and we tell the woman you've got to meet 60 grams of protein a day. That is your goal for the first week.
That's a pretty good starting point. So
You've got, yeah,
the formula is to maintain the muscle mass that you already have.
yeah,
You need 0.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight.
yep,
So
yeah,
half your body weight in protein. Now, that's just to maintain the muscle mass you have now. That's not to build muscle mass. So that gets into a whole other quotient.
yeah. No, it does. So 60 is a good number. It's attainable, so we don't have discouragement, and then we build from there. But yeah, we're in the middle of a 30-day change challenge, and scales are not allowed, and calories are not allowed. It is about eating out of your refrigerator and freezer. What we mean is stay out of the pantry, because unless you have canned meat in there, which, oh, I am not a canned person. So we do have some in our pantry because of my husband, but I tell everybody who in there is, what, fresh fruits and vegetables. Let's start there. Start with, your lean protein. Start with what's in your refrigerator, because if you're going in your pantry, it better be a can of beans or a can of chickpeas or something like that. Otherwise, stay out of your pantry. There's nothing good in there for you. You
That's
know.
what I tell my clients when you go to the grocery store. And usually I'll take my clients to a grocery store with them like the first time. But
Yeah.
if you stay on the outer edges of the grocery store, that's where all your fresh fruits, your vegetables. Now, frozen is not a bad thing, because frozen, they are picked and flash frozen on site. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like, let's just say a banana or an avocado, every day that it is away from the vine, it actually loses some of its nutrients.
Yeah.
So you've got to think that before it gets to your shelf, it's already been off the vine for probably 2 to 3 days.
Yep.
So
Or
frozen vegetables and fruits are definitely a way to go, and especially like bananas. You know how they go bad so quickly?
yes.
So
Yeah.
when I get bananas, I take the peeling off and then I freeze them. I'll cut them in half and I freeze them. And
Yeah.
then you can throw them in a smoothie or whatever, and they don't go bad.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I like that. See, I am a huge supporter of the frozen, food vegetable movement, because it's so much easier. You can stockpile it so much easier. But right now, our house is being made a homestead, so I literally have 16 8x8 plots of stuff being grown. But it's going to be a few months, and then I will be freezing them. You know what I mean? Um,
I will say, let me touch. I keep interrupting you. I'm so freaking sorry, but I'm one of these ADD people. If I don't say it, I totally forget it. Like it's really bad. When you go into the aisles of a grocery store, okay, I'm not saying you cannot find healthy food there. You can, okay, but you also have to consider that that food has a shelf life,
yeah.
which means they had to add something to it to give it a shelf life.
Yes.
Typically, what they add to that is sugar
Yep.
or some other preservative that your body doesn't need, like it really doesn't need. So like canned fruit and stuff like that, you can get that. Rinse it off from all of that. I mean, I'm particularly not a canned fruit person, but
Yeah.
everybody has their own choice. Sometimes it's a must need thing. Just drain the liquid it, rinse it really good, stuff like that. So just read food labels. Like you and everybody's like, it's gonna take me 2 to 4 hours to get through the grocery. I'm like, you're not giving yourself enough credit, first of all, because it's not difficult to look at a label and say, I can't pronounce that. So that was clearly made in a lab. You know what I'm saying? It really doesn't take that long.
No, I agree with you. And I feel like, once you get a good meal plan that you can stick with, and then you have your substitutions for variation, so then, but it's funny how resistance I see in devising meal plans, in which it's amazing because we're such a busy society. And to me, like in my head, I know already what I'm going to eat this week. And then I vary my meats. I love vegetables, and I have my 5 different kinds in my freezer to grab whichever one I feel like having. And then I'm varying from salmon, chicken and pork, and
When you say resistant, what do you mean by that?
um we find people are resistant to planning out a meal plan.
Oh, I'll catch it.
Yeah, but it makes it so easy. If you stick with a plan, there have been studies all over the place that show if you have a meal plan, you do so much better. If you
I
fly by
think
your pants, you're gonna go to your wants, not your needs.
I think it goes back to that quote. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah, no, I like that because that's true. That's so true.
Here's what I've seen in my years of I've been doing this for 14 years now. Um, I get one of two types. I get the first type that they want me to literally tell them everything to eat. And I'm not opposed to that. I understand why some people want that in the beginning. I
Yeah,
don't like doing that because I want people to have freedom. I want them to feel like they have freedom and flexibility in their choices. So I would much rather prefer to give them a food list they can pick from and then whatever tastes them. Because if I tell them to eat X, Y, and Z, I can promise you they're not only going to get sick of it, you know
yeah,
what I'm saying,
yeah.
but it's not going to be satisfying for long. So what I do to get around that and to get around the resistance to meal prep is once they start eating healthy, they realize that it does take a little bit of time. So if you can get them to take a 2 hour or a 3 hour window on a weekend and just do some food prep. Now, I personally used to, I don't do this so much anymore, but I took one day and I cooked all my chicken. I cooked all my sweet potatoes. Now, I used to travel for work. I covered 36 counties for the Department of Juvenile Justice. I was a mental health therapist. So, what I would do is I would put them, I weighed everything out because I'm really type A, OCD, anal.
Oh, that's okay. And all your
So,
half
I wasn't even competing, but yet I would still weigh stuff out. It's ridiculous. But I would put it in little Tupperwares, and then for however many meals I was going to be gone that day, I would just pack that very many meals. Um, I do recommend people. Uh, I don't recommend that you eat the same thing every day because we need diversity.
right.
But I think for time and money purposes, it helps if you will make extra of a meal and
Okay.
have it as a leftover for the next day, whether that's lunch or dinner.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, it's all about, of course, when you think you're hungry, right? I Are we really thirsty? There again, our brains are the machine.
You just nailed it because that is the biggest. Most people think they're hungry when in actuality they're thirsty. And I'll tell you right now, if you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
Yes, yep. And people forget that because that's absolutely true. And people forget that very crucial neurological process. Yep.
Absolutely. So,
It's funny, we know these things, but we forget because they're not front and center. They're not in front of us, you
or
know?
we know them, but are we living them? You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? It's kind of like when someone gives you advice, you're like, oh, I know that. And they're like, yeah, but your life doesn't really reflect it. So are you living it? It was funny. I'm a very science backed person. I love science.
Same here. Yeah.
Um, there was a study done. Oh shit, now I just done forgot what I was talking about. I'm so sorry.
No, science based.
Oh yes, I'm sorry about water. So, everybody's on this keto craze, okay? which I'm not a fan of keto personally. Every let me rephrase that. Every program, every diet, which I hate that word
Yeah,
diet because that
right.
to me signals temporary.
Temporary, right?
And
Right there with
health is not temporary. First of all, health is not a plan. Breathing is not a plan.
oh.
Sleeping is not I'm sorry, not a plan. It's breathing is not a program.
Yeah.
Sleeping is not a program.
Yep.
Feeding your body is not a program. Okay. It's a lifestyle. It's a journey.
Yep.
But since everybody's on this ketosis, keto, and everybody knows about that, there was a study done. There is various ways that your body can start producing ketones, which is what ketosis is. So you can actually drink 17 ounces of water straight, no breaks, and start your body in ketosis. So
Wow.
what I recommend my clients do every morning is you don't have to start off this high, work your way up to it. But I drink 30 ounces of water every morning right when I get up.
Wow.
30 ounces.
And how
Now,
many?
I'm not saying I'm that good the rest of the day, but I just kind of like to give myself everything to get a good start.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you hear me say how many times you have to go to the bathroom after that?
Oh, girl, all day long. It's all day long, all day long.
Yeah, that's my problem. I drink so much water, but luckily I work from home, so it's not so bad. But yeah. So any final thoughts before
So
we?
I wanted to do something special for your listeners. So I am putting together my nutrition and fitness program. It's actually called Nourish to Flourish.
Oh, I like that.
So, yeah, it's not totally complete yet. My assistant is trying to wrap up the details. So, what I would like to do is just give you my email address. And if
Great.
they email me and write Life and Stories podcast, I will give them a 50% off discount
Oh,
on
awesome.
the program when it gets released. So, you can email me at amberrileycoaching@gmail.com.
And I'll put that in, as I'm posting the podcast, I'll be putting that information out there.
And
And
then you can reach me on Instagram at Amber_Riley_coaching.
great. Yeah, that, and you can find us both on Clubhouse.
Oh, yes. I am obsessed with that app. It is utterly amazing. I got to just throw a tidbit in here. I want to know your opinion. I'm a little afraid that when they release this to the Android world,
Yeah.
that it's going to lose some of its authenticity because right now you have people on there that are literally just giving from their heart. I'm not saying there's not some monetization going on because there is, but it's just genuine, heartfelt. You get people at all hours and you get communication with people you would never have access to in any other world.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And we'll see, because that is a human nature. We'll see, but I will say that you'll not have to get together and maybe ever so often moderate a room having to do with mental health and then food addiction, like
Oh, I
moving.
think that's a great idea. And
Yeah.
also I am starting my own podcast. I declared it this year.
Good, good,
I'm
good.
Yes, you kind of helped inspire me actually.
Good. I'm glad. I love inspiring people.
So I don't even know what the name of it's going to be called yet.
Choose it.
But probably around April. So I'm just throwing it out to the universe so that the energy starts flowing and things fall into place.
Right? Manifesting.
And I would love to have you on my podcast then when I do start it.
And half the reason why I have this podcast is I love to talk to people. Everyone in my circle knows I am a talker. I'm a
You
chatty.
can tell I am because I keep interrupting your ass.
If you didn't tell me you were from Kentucky, I think you're from Texas. That's why I said it. You got that sass. You got that Texan sass, because I lived in Oklahoma for several years. But yeah, well, yeah. So everybody, you'll see the link somewhere. However, if you're listening to this on my podcast, just jump over to the YouTube channel or the Facebook page, and you'll see Amber's link so that you can reach out to her. And thank you so much for hanging out with me for this short time. Sorry that you're having nasty weather. Sorry, but not sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least I'll get a lot of work done. I mean, because I won't be going anywhere.
there you go. And again, this is Tina McGlynn with Life and Story. So tune in again next time. Thanks, everybody.